I had to talk about this film as soon as I had finished watching it. So you're getting this discussion fresh. The Vanishing on 7th Street stars Hayden Christensen, Thandie Newton, and John Leguizamo, and two other characters who are worth mentioning. Magnet Films, so you will probably know that this is not one of the big budget films like, say, what's a good big budget film that I've got up here presently to show you? No, that's not a big budget, that's not big budget, that's not big... Fucking A, I'll have to cut to show you this. So Magnet's not big budget like, say, a 007 film. This is a big budget type of film showing all sorts of special effects. They got the money to show a lot of locations, a lot of characters, a lot of stuff. In this, Magnet tends to not be able to do that as well. They don't have as much money. They have enough money to hire a couple big list actors, but if they do that, they have to sacrifice their budget for a lot of other things. So, they did the best they could. There's basically 4 major characters with a couple other minor characters in here. So, with a small cast, they can afford larger names like Leguizamo and Hayden Christensen, etc. So, that's how Magnet rolls, pretty much. They don't do Magnolia Pictures, as you can see the back. Magnolia and Magnet, they're the same thing. Magnet's just the distribution, whatever, from what I'm aware of. Magnolia is the pictures people. Where should I start with The Vanishing on 7th Street? Perhaps I should start with the story, just like Leguizamo starts it. Historically, a long time ago, during the colonial eras, there was a place called Roanoke? Roanoke, I think it was Roanoke. Yes, Roanoke, the lost colony, where a couple hundred or so colonists, were living in a society, and they just suddenly vanished the next time supplies came to resupply a society that was no longer there. They just vanished. There was nobody there, except for a single thing written on, I don't know, a tree stump or something. It was written somewhere called Croatoan. Now, people believe that Croatoan comes from the Croatan tribe of Indians. The Croatan tribe was located in the region. Perhaps they came in and wiped this society out. They left the cattle, they left food, they left the clothing, everything they left except for the people. The people were just gone. So the theory, a popular theory, is that the Croatan Indians came, grabbed all the people, and then fucked off. That's the logical, realistic explanation. There's been a lot of fantastical explanations, from aliens to witchcraft, on how these people vanished, and this film talks about one of those fantastical theories on what caused the Roanoke colony to just vanish, right? So, John Leguizamo is the guy who looks up all these conspiracies, black holes, aliens, all that crap. And he's one of the first people we have the picture settle on when this mysterious blackout happens. A blackout happens, and then, like, all the lights go out. He's got some sort of flashlight or something with him, so he's in the lights when the blackout happens, but then the lights turn back on, and he goes out looking, and there's everybody's gone. He works at a movie theater, and he's one of the people in the back showing the film reel of the picture, and he turns it off when it's time to turn off the movie and all that crap. So he's looking, going out, walking the halls of the theater, and he sees a bunch of piles of clothing, but there's no people. Everybody's gone. It seems as if everybody had just vanished. Like the Dwemer in Elder Scrolls. There's a nerd reference for you there. But he's looking around, everybody's gone. And then we swap perspectives over to her. She's into a sort of hospital. She's in a sort of hospital. She seems to be a nurse or doctor there, and she's looking for a baby because we hear a baby crying in the distance. It's echoing. It's little ethery. The sound effects make it all blurred a little bit, but we can hear, and she can hear the crying of a baby, and she seems to be looking for that baby, checking the delivery room, checking all sorts of rooms for the baby, and there's nothing there. All the people are gone. She goes into a surgical room where there's a person sitting there on open heart surgery. All of the doctor's clothing seem to have vanished. The only person left is the guy with the open heart, and he dies almost immediately. Because, open heart surgery, when there's nobody there, all the machines start failing. He's gone immediately. There's no helping him. The lights flicker, he turn out, and then when they flicker back on, he's also vanished. His clothing is all that remains, his little hospital gown or whatever. And then we swap over to Hayden Christensen. Hayden Christensen is a news reporter of some sort, and he falls asleep with candles lit. So that might explain how he didn't vanish when the blackout hit the entire city. So he wakes up, looks around, the sun's up in the sky, and so he's looking around looking for people, and everybody's gone, so he's pretty freaked out about that. Then we have a time skip of roughly 3 days, 72 hours. And we still follow Hayden Christensen. He's our main character, the A-list actor. A-list is very loosely speaking. But after the Star Wars films, they thought that he was going to do something, that he was going to go somewhere. So they started putting him in a bunch of films like Jumper. Jumper didn't go anywhere. They put him in Vanishing. Vanishing didn't go anywhere. So a couple of years later, they finally put him in Outcast. And Outcast was not meant to go anywhere. And it didn't go anywhere. I am sad to see this guy not be in more films, but I'm not going to go off on a tangent. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. Hayden Christensen, we stick with him after the time skip of 3 days. He has pretty much gotten well versed into how the new world of darkness runs. If you are in the shadows and you don't have a light source, you vanish. You turn into clothing on the ground. You are gone. So he's pretty much looking out for himself. He doesn't seem to aid anybody. There's a dude on a bike asking him for a light. He does not offer to help him. The dude asking for the light gets chased away by some shadows until he vanishes. Hayden Christensen does not care about other people. He's only looking out for number one right now. And then he finds a bar lit up in the middle of the street. All the power's out, but this one bar has lights showing, flashing all across town. So Hayden's obviously is drawn there like a moth to a light source. So he goes in, and he finds James. James is the most hated character, in my opinion. James is the reason this entire film falls apart. I can understand. He's 12. I can understand. But at the same time, I was 12 once, and I know we all like to think that, even if we were that age, we probably wouldn't be that dumb. We wouldn't make those choices if we were in that position. But we don't know that. We don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure. But it's still very aggravating. He's still such a very aggravating character. I have no problems with the actor. The actor himself. The actor who plays James is fine. I have no problems with it. It's just the way the character of James is written and his decisions throughout the film that I have a lot of contention with, especially in the ending, which I don't feel is deserved for him in the slightest. We'll get to that. So, Hayden and James team up. And irony, a little bit of irony here. Hayden tells James that his name is Luke. For any Star Wars nerds out there, Hayden Christensen plays Anakin Skywalker in the Star Wars prequels. And as anybody who's watched the original trilogy knows, Anakin Skywalker's son is Luke Skywalker. So I thought it was pretty funny to have Hayden Christensen playing a character named Luke. Moving on. Luke and James meet up with the girl here, who I'm just going to call Miss Newton, because I don't know her name. I don't know her name at all. I'm just going to call her Miss Newton. Luke, James, and Newton team up, because they're the only three left, and then they eventually hear somebody else crying out in the darkness. It's John Leguizamo. So Hayden goes out to find John Leguizamo and brings him back. He ends up breaking his ankle in the process. But he brings John Leguizamo back inside. John Leguizamo explains the lore about what he thinks is happening, and he talks about the Roanoke colony and the mysterious lost colony thing with the whole Croatoan crap going on, right? So he thinks that that's probably what's happening again here, a sort of like societal reset going on. And Hayden Christensen, he's not buying that. He's just thinking, alright, we just gotta get the heck out of Dodge. We just gotta get out of this friggin' town. We need to go to Chicago or something. I know a guy in Chicago. And then we have another cutscene flashback to Hayden after the first day. And he's at the newscast station while the power's still on. And he's checking out the camera footage to see what happened and how everybody vanished. And then he sees that there's somebody in Chicago still on the air, and that guy gives him exposition on what's going on, and what all the shadow people do, and what the shadows are doing. The darkness itself is basically the enemy here. There's things in the darkness, shadows, and if you're stuck in the shadows, you vanish. The Vanishing on 7th Street and all that crap. So you gotta stay in the light. But the thing is that these things have like a supernatural ability to like mess with electricity. It doesn't even have to be like power grid electricity. It could even be flashlight electricity. When you're in the vicinity of these shadow creatures, even when you turn on this flashlight is supposed to last like 1,000 hours, right? No, not really 1,000 hours. Maybe more like 100. Maybe more like 100 hours. This thing is a pretty good flashlight. So this thing is supposed to last a lot longer than it actually does in the film. So, for example, if this lasts, I'm just going to spitball an hour here. If this lasts 100 hours, in this film universe, if Hayden Christensen turned this same flashlight on, it would probably work for about 30 minutes. And then it dies. The batteries just don't work. The batteries die out quickly. The electrical power grid just dies out quickly. Nothing stays on. These things seem to actually have the ability to turn on and off lights as they will. As we see in that flashback, the guy in Chicago tells everybody who's listening, and that everybody being listening is us, the viewers, and Hayden Christensen. He says that trust no light other than the one that you hold in your hand. Why? Because the theory is that these things in the darkness can turn on light sources to attract survivors to them, so that they could just turn the light off and just take them from there, you know? So you can only trust the light sources that you yourself carry, and I'm with it all the way from there. Up until this point, I'm really with this film. It's a really good thriller. It's a really good one. So as we move further through this film, James starts to act. Even Miss Newton is pretty crazed up. Hayden Christensen seems to be the only person with a head on his shoulders. He seems to be the only one who's practically sane. John Leguizamo is a bit of a conspiracy nut, but he's the next sane person. Miss Newton is freaking out about her baby, and I understand the baby is 9 months old, but we saw her in the flashback. She went home looking for the family, and there were piles of clothing belonging to whoever was in the home. So we can assume that the baby didn't make it. We can assume that the baby, her baby, the 9-month-old baby, we can assume that that baby is a pile of clothes somewhere. We can assume that, and it's practically logical that that has happened. It's been 3 days. I don't think that baby made it. Call me a heartless monkey if you want, but I don't think the baby made it. But she seems adamant on looking for the child, and she is distraught to the point of insanity at some points. But she seems to get her sanity back when she hangs out with Hayden Christensen and John Leguizamo. So she seems to come back to reality a little bit, but she's still desperate to find her child. And when she eventually dies, when she and Hayden Christensen go out to find a truck that still has a working battery to bring it back, so that he can get the truck started, so they can drive away and get out of Detroit. It's set in Detroit, so they're trying to leave Detroit, blah, blah, blah. So these two go out to find the truck, but then they get separated. She hears a baby crying, and she sees a light outside. And we were with Hayden Christensen, with the guy in Chicago said, don't trust light sources that are not in your hand, don't trust them. Well, she sees a street light turn on, and there seems to be a baby cradle, underneath the street lamp. And there seems to be a baby crying from that direction. She drops her light source and walks over to this baby cradle. There's nothing in the baby cradle, obviously. We know that. And then the light turns off and she's gone. Hayden Christensen's freaking out about that, obviously. Back at the bar, John Leguizamo, he has a concussion with his head, so James has to take care of John Leguizamo. James goes off to check on something. Get some water or something for cold compress for John Leguizamo's aching head. And while they're separated, John Leguizamo dies, or vanishes, or whatever. The lights flicker and turn off in the bar, and he vanishes. So now James is freaking out. And by the time James freaks out, Hayden finally comes back with the car. He put the car in neutral and pushed it all the way back to James. So Hayden and James team up. They get the power cord from the car, the couples or whatever. They hook it up to the engine of the car, and then they hook the other end of the power cords to the generator that's in the basement of the bar. That's the reason why the bar is still lighted up or whatever. It's got a backup generator. It's not connected to the electrical grid, which is down. So they power up the generator to power up the car, and the two of them get out of there. And you'd think that this is home free. They are home free, baby. Well, the hood's still up on the truck. So Hayden Christensen has to get out of the truck to unplug the power couplings or whatever and close the hood. And he says that James has to keep his foot on the gas pedal to keep the car on. Because if the car turns off, he doesn't think they'll be able to turn it back on again. So he has James keep his foot on the gas while he's getting the hood closed. And so, lo and behold, though, James and Hayden Christensen are standing right in front of the church. I didn't mention this earlier, but the church is where James's poor mother went to a couple days prior to search for survivors. She never came back. You, me, and definitely Hayden Christensen assume that his mom didn't make it. We know that his mom didn't make it. James, he's 12. He's 12. It's understandable. He's 12. James takes his foot off the gas pedal and runs into the church looking for his mom. Hayden Christensen is yelling at James to come back, to keep his foot on the gas pedal to keep the car on. The lights are starting to dim. Hayden runs into the car and keeps the car on. He presses his foot on the gas and keeps it on. He's yelling for James to get back over here, get back over here. And James enters the church, and we are all just seething. I'm seething. Hayden Christensen is seething. This kid is dumb! And so Hayden says what I was thinking. He says, fuck him. And he just drives off. He just drives off. And I'm with Hayden here. I'm like, dude, we're home free. Just get out of this town. You can get out of here. You got enough gas. You got it. You got the car. You can get the heck out of here. So he's at Detroit city limits, and he sees a sign, something written on the sign, that makes him stop in his tracks. John Leguizamo's story about the Croatoan and the Roanoke. Well, somebody wrote Croatoan on one of the billboards. And this seems to cause Hayden Christensen to stop. Because now he's feeling racked with guilt for leaving poor James to be stupid in the church, searching for his mom, which everybody knows is dead. A pile of clothes somewhere. But James is holding on to hope against hope. He's 12. Understand that. I understand. He's 12. I understand that, but yeah. So, Hayden Christensen drives back to the church to get the kid. He charges his truck through the church because as James is looking through the church, all the lights, the candles, there's a circle of candles, the candles turn out. And the shadows are about to grab James, but then Hayden Christensen crashes through with the truck. His lights blow away all the shadows, and he shouts at the kid, "Get in the truck! Get in the truck!" And James says, "No, I saw my mom. I heard my mom." And we know because Hayden Christensen and John Leguizamo told us this, is that the shadows can talk to you. They can use voices of people who have been dead to trick you, to get you to go off and whatnot. He even told James this. We know this crap. But James says, "Oh, I gotta go look for my mom." And so he runs off, and Hayden Christensen gets out of the truck to go after the kid, and then the truck's lights go out. And just before they go out completely, Hayden Christensen just stands there and says, "Oh, fuck." And then he vanishes too. And at that point, I feel what Hayden Christensen felt at that last moment. He's probably regretting his conscience to come back to get this kid. Because this kid just got him killed. This kid just got him killed. But James gets to live. James gets to live. The sun comes up the following day, and James gets to live. The boy who got our main protagonist killed gets to live for some dumb reason. He never finds his mom. We know she's dead. He now knows she's dead. But he got Hayden Christensen, he got him killed for this. Sometimes I feel like I'm not that empathetic in film. Sometimes I feel like that, but then I watch other movies that can bring me to tears. They can bring me to such moving tears. An example of that would probably have to be maybe the finale of Toy Story 3. That was such a moving scene, and it did bring me to tears. It is a fantastic ending that Toy Story 4 completely ruined, but what I'm trying to say is that I like to say that I'm at least somewhat empathetic, but I don't want to come across that I'm being an asshole here. But this character made this choice that defies all, and got Hayden Christensen killed. He almost made it. He almost made it. He could have just said, "Screw it." The kid would have lived anyways. But that was The Vanishing on 7th Street. I really like this movie all the way up to the finale. The finale ruined it for me. Hayden Christensen deserved to live, because that was just dumb what happened at the end there. It was just dumb what happened there. He should not have died that way. James just being dumb, "I gotta go find my mom," and then Luke just dies. We all know that James's mom was gone. We all knew. Hayden should have been a little bit more forceful with the kid. He should have grabbed the kid and forced him back from the church and got him in the truck and just drove off. And I don't know. And if I keep ranting, I'm gonna be here all night. This was 50 cents at a pawn shop, man. This was 50 cents, dude. It's worth 50 cents. It's worth $1 from the dollar bin if you found it for $1. It's worth it if you could find it on Netflix or something. Watch this movie, and you'll find out what I'm talking about. You'll see that ending, and you can give your own thoughts about this. I'm gonna put this in the Rant Files playlist because, oh my god, that ending. Be imaginative, everybody.